to the point where he kind of didn't really know who we were exactly, but he knew we were people he loved, so he always kind of smiled, and he was always happy when we visited.
I always think of it as you're watching television, and my dad is awful at this, constantly hits the button, searching through, like, oh, I don't want to watch a commercial, I'm just going to see what else is on. That is that kind of snippets of stuff going on all at once. That's what life is like for somebody with Alzheimer's. It's just, yeah, it's a horrible disease, but the best thing, or the saving grace, is that they don't really, at some point in the stage, they don't really know that this is an awful thing that they have.
By the year 2031, all of our nation's baby boomers will have reached their 65th birthday. The chance that these baby boomers will develop Alzheimer's disease doubles every 5 years onward. But it is not just these baby boomers that will be affected by Alzheimer's disease. It is their families, their government, and their fellow Americans that will feel the devastating effects of this rapidly growing epidemic. Alzheimer's is the 7th leading cause of death in America. In our nation today, nearly 5.3 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. This number is expected to rise to 16 million people by 2050 if nothing is done to stop it.
There are many factors that contribute to the development of Alzheimer's disease, such as genetics, age, and health. Living a healthy lifestyle is important. Being a diabetic or overweight can contribute to the development of Alzheimer's. Genetic predisposition is also an important factor. Apolipoprotein E2, E3, and E4 are the genes inherited that contribute to Alzheimer's as well. But these are not the only factors. As one begins to grow older, their memory fades. Sometimes it is just forgetting the keys, but other times it can be more serious, like forgetting important details of your life. But what causes these memory losses? Researchers have found that as a person grows older, more amyloid plaque develops in his or her brain. The problem being faced is detecting the plaque and declaring whether or not it is Alzheimer's disease. Before technology was as advanced as it is today, doctors could not know whether a patient had Alzheimer's disease or not. Due to limited technology, doctors were only able to truly know whether a patient had Alzheimer's or not post-mortem. Today, that is not the case. Researchers now use PET scans to detect amyloid plaque in the brain, but that is not enough. Researchers at Washington University are trying to track Alzheimer's all the way back to birth. If they can prevent symptoms before they show, then they hope to stop it before it begins to develop.
There's really no way to prevent Alzheimer's. A lot of people feel the whole, if you don't use it, you lose it sort of thing.
Multiple research studies have linked diet, exercise, social interaction, and intellectual activities with reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease development. During a clinical study funded by the National Institute of Aging, older adults engaged in an exercise routine of brisk walking over the course of 6 months. At the end of the program, participants were found to have increased brain activity in specific brain regions. Exercise activities like aerobics or cardio workouts are linked to improved cognitive skills. In a Washington University clinical study, Denise Head, an assistant professor in psychology of aging, is researching the connection between aerobic fitness as a way to decrease the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease.
In that particular study, we're looking at obese individuals who are coming in for a longitudinal study on, and they're doing an exercise intervention, and we did MRI scans before they came in to look at the association between aerobic fitness and brain structure and cognitive functioning. And the reason we wanted to look at that is because other studies have found that aerobic exercise is beneficial for brain structure. One, there's been cross-sectional studies. So if you just take a group of individuals and measure their aerobic fitness level and they measure their brain structure, there's a correlation between the level of aerobic fitness and the volume. So higher fitness, higher brain volume in areas like the prefrontal areas, which are involved in executive functions, and some in the hippocampus, which are involved in memory functions.
Keeping the brain active is another way to improve cognitive health. The Chicago Health and Aging Project showed that individuals with higher level of social interaction also had higher levels of cognitive function in the brain. Activities like reading, interacting with others, and doing puzzles are linked to stimulation in brain regions like the frontal, temporal, and parietal lobes, which control things like memory, language, emotion, and sensory ability.
So we do a lot of reminiscing therapy, asking them about their past, what their first date was like with their husband or wife, and things like that. So that gets their mind still going. On the early stage Alzheimer's unit, they'll do some word games. They do some fairly easier crossword puzzles, things like that. We do on our later stage unit, there's a game that the activity assistant does that she'll say like 3 heads are better than, to see if they'll say 1, or to kind of, remember what little phrases and sayings were. So those are types of activities we'll do as far as keeping the brain active.
Puzzle therapy, games like crossword puzzles, Sudoku games, and Nintendo DS Brain Age may help slow mental decline, improve cognitive health, and help alleviate stress, which is an environmental risk factor in Alzheimer's disease. However, there is no conclusive research that puzzle games alone can act as prevention.
It's a big in the media, and there's kind of this idea of brain age and those types of games and crossword puzzles. And there's kind of debate in the literature about that. One kind of, because a lot of the studies are, they just take people and say, what do you do, and see how that relates to their cognitive performance. They don't actually intervene and say, one group does it and one group doesn't. And so when you do that, what you kind of think about that, if you take a group of people who are engaged that way, who are doing crossword puzzles and doing Sudoku and seeking those things out, they differ from individuals who are not doing that. And so maybe that's why their cognitive performance is better. Some other researchers argue that there's evidence that these types of things have an effect, but there's a lot of rigorous research trying to kind of actually do experimental work to see if these things make a difference. But at this stage, I wouldn't spend my money on any of that stuff.